History's new scripted drama, Sons of Liberty, tells the untold story of a group of rebels who brought an empire to its knees. Sons of Liberty, a 3-night event, premieres January 25th, 9/8 Central, on History.
ESPN Radio. This is the Thundering Herd Podcast.
It's the Herd on ESPN Radio. Wherever you may be, however you may be listening, thanks for making us part of your day. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All of our guests via the Subway, Fresh Take Hotline, and simulcast on ESPNU. Oh, looky here. 11 of 12 footballs were underinflated in that New England game for the Patriots. All right, let me start with this. First of all, I think it's a bad look for the Patriots and Belichick, and I don't think Robert Kraft is going to be really happy. Because Robert Kraft, he's been a guy that's been very much a supporter of Roger Goodell and doing things right and being decent, and I don't think Robert Kraft is happy today. I know Roger Goodell's not happy. And I think they're going to really, and there's still a ways to go in this investigation, but in the end, I think the biggest issue here isn't the deflated footballs. It's the insubordination of the league by Belichick. Belichick even mocks the media process. He mocks it. Spygate, mocks it. That's the bigger issue. I think the league is furious with Belichick, who I think is the best coach in the league. I think Robert Kraft is unhappy today. What do I think about deflating footballs? I mean, think about the 10 or 12 things we all know that happen in sports that are illegal. They can be penalized. Let's name them. The soccer flop, blood doping in cycling, pine tar in baseball. It's all over everybody's hands. Recruiting in college basketball and football, corked bats, phantom tags in baseball, pumped-in crowd noise, NASCAR regulations. I mean, crew chiefs are constantly tagged. Baseball, Dominican age deception, PEDs in all sports. Where does ball deflation rank among that? Pretty low. It's not a buzz cut, it's a trim. You know what I mean? It doesn't rise to outrageous for me. Why? Because I'm reading a story this morning from Charles Robinson, the best investigative reporter, one of the best out there, doesn't work for this network, where he talked to a football manager last year after the USC story with ball deflation, and the football manager said, goes on every day, goes on every game. It doesn't bother me because Brad Johnson, who won a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers, there's a story out today by Rick Stroud, he paid off somebody to deflate a ball during that Super Bowl. So I'm not outraged by it. I think if you look at sports and what happens in sports, go look at the Charles Robinson story today. Go look at the Brad Johnson story today. They're all over the internet. It's just going to be really hard for me to say Indy New England was decided by gradual decline in air pressure. I can't go there. But I think it's a really embarrassing moment for Robert Kraft and the Patriots. And let's be honest, it helps a little. I mean, you wouldn't do this if it didn't help a little, right? I mean, Pete Carroll and the Seahawks, Adderall, practice issues, that special teams coach he hired at USC, you wouldn't take the risk if it didn't help a little, right? I mean, you wouldn't pay for Viagra if it didn't help a little. Heroin, cocaine, it's got to be doing something or it wouldn't be worth the price, right? I mean, ball deflation is, at some level, there's a sense that it makes my quarterback a little more comfortable. So there's something there. I remember getting into arguments with some of these dopey baseball fans who would say, PEDs don't help anybody. Then why would you spend the money? You spend money on drugs when they help. Otherwise, you wouldn't go to the pharmacy. It's a headache and it's expensive. And in sports, you get busted and you get fined. So yes, it helps somewhere along the line. There is a sense. But so do phantom tags in baseball, so does flopping in basketball. It doesn't rise. It doesn't rise to outrageous. I heard Mike Greenberg say this morning on Mike and Mike. He said, it's one of these rare times I don't really know how I feel. Well, you're giving yourself the answer. You're not outraged. When you really feel outraged, I didn't get outraged much by Spygate, but I think this insubordination's the issue. So I think Belichick's going to get tagged. The question is, how do you tag him? What do? Draft picks? Draft picks taken away doesn't help great teams. Doesn't hurt great teams. It hurts Cleveland because they always have a top 5 draft pick. New England's picking at the bottom of the rounds. You give them slap on the wrist. We're taking away your first-round pick. Do we still have Gronk and Brady? Okay. Do we still have Belichick? I think the way to really hurt New England, take Belichick out for a year. Does it rise to that? Well, let's look at his resume. I'm a big believer. I'll tell you, I'll go back to something I said yesterday, though. Let's take a big picture look at what we've seen the last couple of weeks in football. Think about this. Green Bay chose field goals over touchdowns. More aggressive Seattle beat them. Detroit, Dallas. Detroit wouldn't go for it. 4th and 1. Punted to Dallas, couldn't make stops. The less aggressive team lost. So the Packers were less aggressive, lost. Detroit against Dallas, less aggressive. Ohio State, Alabama. Ohio State, trick plays. Going over the top late in the game. Less aggressive team won. Football, finance, accounting, military, alpha male businesses, there's payouts for aggressive. When Urban Meyer got to Ohio State, he ticked off all the other Big Ten coaches. Why? Because he went in and he talked to recruits who had already verbally committed, and he swayed them to the Buckeyes. That is done by the top coaches in college football. Lute Olson in basketball, they called him Midnight Lute. He'd steal your recruit at midnight, day before signing day. The SEC is overwhelmingly the most aggressive recruiting conference. Boy, they push the envelope, and they get better players. Seattle's the most penalized team in the NFL the last 2 years. Man, they push the envelope. Football, technology, accounting, finance, those are the envelope-pushing businesses. Steve Jobs, when he was at Apple, he said he'd spend every penny of Apple's $40 billion in the bank to destroy the Android because he believed they stole it from him. Yet Steve Jobs is the guy who famously quoted Picasso in 1996 saying, "Good artists copy, great artists steal." Technology is the stealing business. Football, network television, American Idol, now they have The Voice. There are no original ideas. So this doesn't rise to outrageous as an act, but it does rise in Belichick's case to embarrassing for Kraft, his legacy, and the league, and I think they will punish him and should. I don't mind envelope pushers, but you got to respect industries. Okay, and I think they're going to look at him as a habitual, sort of chronic nose thumber, that he sees himself as sort of the league is silly, he's smarter than everybody else, and I think that's a dangerous place to be as a human, and I think it's a rough place for the NFL. They don't want you to do that. Got to respect the league. What is the NFL all about? Protect the shield. This damages the shield. So I think you could have a really heavy penalty for Belichick. But I'll say this again. Ball deflation, everywhere. Can you really say, for kickers it would be more outrageous, but balls 13.5 pounds down to 12, really? Ask yourself this. If it's so obvious and such an advantage, why the hell couldn't the refs feel it once for 4 hours? In baseball, if there was pine tar on a baseball, an umpire would be like, whoa, stop game. 4 hours touching the ball? Not one ref could tell? Not one? In 4 hours? They touch it every play. Not one of the officials could tell? So I don't think it's a difference maker in this situation. But it is tarnishing Belichick. And ask yourself this. What do you think owners are doing around the league this morning? Oh, they're calling Roger Goodell. Oh, Belichick, I guarantee it. Goodell's phone this morning, other owners in this league, it is like one of those Apple stores before they come out with new technology. Man, they're lined up around the block. He's got 31 owners on the phone this morning. Because they're going to go after New England, 8 of the reigning dynasty, and Belichick is an envelope pusher. they'd all hire him in a second, but so that's my take. Individually, it doesn't bother me, but collectively, if you look at Bill's resume, he's going to get smoked.
Putting style in black T-shirts. It's Colin Cowherd, the Thundering Herd podcast.
People know that I've always kind of liked the way the Patriots do business, and I'm getting a lot of this. Colin, don't downplay this. I'm not downplaying it, but if the refs in 4 hours couldn't feel it, I don't think it's necessarily winning games. And I think we have all sorts of this stuff. I got a lot of these emails yesterday. Colin, this is what message is it to your kids? I don't talk to my kids about ball deflation in the NFL. I really don't. So it's one of these things. I just think it's one of these industries where accounting, finance, football, sports, baseball have a history. Like every sport's different. Golf, you would never think of this. Vijay Singh got in trouble early in his career and was known as a cheater among golfers his entire career. The industry of golf, none of this is allowed. But in baseball, Pine Tar, we laughed at Gaylord Perry. It was funny. It was like laughed at, scuffing the baseball. It's been laughed at. And in football, there's holding, and Mike Golick this morning, you spray Pam on your offensive line jersey so people can't get a hold of it. Every sport has a different sensibility. Soccer has always been deceptions big in soccer with the diving. You're trying to get penalty shots. But that doesn't work in golf. Golf is the gentleman's sport. So every sport is different. Football has a great deal of deception. I don't think this rises to PED use, blood doping, NASCAR rule skirting. I don't think it rises. I think there's much greater PED use and blood stemming than people realize in sports. I really think it's a huge issue in the NBA, and nobody taught. Bill Simmons and I have talked about this off the air. I think there's a lot of users in the NBA, but nobody talks about it. That is an advantage. To some degree. Ball deflation, Now, if it was kickers, because every single kicker would rather have a softer ball for his foot, right? Like every kicker, they want, what is a kicker wants a harder football? They want inflation. Like every kicker in the league would go, yeah, give me a bigger ball. It pops off my foot and it'll go further, right? But not every quarterback wants that. So ball deflation for a quarterback is arguing among quarterbacks. Some want it, some don't. Some think it matters, some think it doesn't. You'd still need a good offensive line. You'd need receivers to get open. There's so many things that have to coincide with ball deflation or inflation that would matter. In fact, Aaron Rodgers came out yesterday, and Aaron Rodgers, play the bite with Aaron Rodgers, the one we talked about. Aaron Rodgers, and he talks about how, put more air, put less air.
I have a major problem with the way it goes down, to be honest with you. The majority of the time, they take the air out of the football. And I think that, for me, that's a disadvantage.
Wait, who does?
I can't. The referees, the referee who inspects them before the game, they, have a set range they like them at. I always like to be on the high range because of my grip pressure. I just have a hard time throwing a flat football. The majority of quarterbacks, I would say more than half, or maybe on the other end of the spectrum, and like it on the flatter side. My belief is that there should be a minimum air pressure requirement, but not a maximum. There's no advantage, in my opinion. We're not kicking the football. There's no advantage in having a pumped-up football. There is, if you don't have a strong grip pressure or smaller hands, an advantage in having a flat football, though, because that is easier to throw.
So my argument would be even Aaron Rodgers is like, all quarterbacks like it different. All kickers like it the same. More air. Quarterbacks argue. But is it really fair if Russell Wilson has smaller hands? Shouldn't he be allowed to move it down slightly? So, you could make an argument that why do we even have this rule? Shouldn't there be a broader range? You could make that argument. If Russell Wilson's hands, Michael Vick's hands, Andy Dalton's hands are slightly smaller, should you really get an advantage as a player for having a larger hand? As a quarterback, shouldn't there be a broader range where you can go 13.5 to 12.5? I think that's a legitimate question. I don't have an answer, but that to me, now you could argue, well, all the baseballs are the same size, all soccer balls are the same size. Absolutely, but football, there has always been a little bit of a range. You have to be within 13.5 and 12.5 pounds of air pressure. So they give you a little flexibility here. Should we broaden the flexibility? You can go down to 11.5 and 14. Can you allow for customization a little bit in the NFL? I think it's a legitimate question, but right now you're not allowed to. And clearly, I mean, the Patriots wouldn't do this if it didn't help. So I don't think it's massive help. I don't think phantom tags in baseball get you to the World Series and win it. But you don't use things and take risks without an upside. So Steve Young talked about this. Steve Young, it's got to help a quarterback a little.
To me, it would make the ball a little easier to throw, but it doesn't help you throw touchdowns versus interceptions. It doesn't. I mean, the ball's going to go where it's going to go, and it's going to if it's either expertly thrown or it's not. But so within a range, it's outside the rules, but certainly it's not going to. It's not like it's going to win you a game because of it.
Baseball, you have different bat weights. Golfers use different grips and clubs. Football players wear, I think, different helmets. I mean, should we allow for ball inflation and deflation, a broader range based on a quarterback's hands? I don't have a problem with it. They do now, but it's a tiny, tiny range, and the Patriots went under it. But why didn't the referees feel it? That's my thing. Like, if it was so obvious, referees in 4 hours didn't feel it one time? Once? So, can you imagine if New England-Indy was a close game? Holy moly, would this story be big. Thank God it was a blowout. We wouldn't even talk about the Super Bowl for 2 weeks. I mean, it was a blowout. I mean, if you watched, I don't think even Colt fans think it decided the game. But listen, when you take into consideration Belichick's resume, this gets a lot of people freaked out. Listen, we live in a society of conspiracy theorists. We do. Kooky Maduki. I get emails all day. We got people chasing Sasquatches around the country. I mean, seriously, we have an industry based on Sasquatch. We have we have an industry based on dog psychics and psychics. You go to New York City, there's 7,000 psychic places. I mean, we just love the idea of dark, mystery, gray matter, somebody's out to get you, the Illuminati. I mean, that's the society we live in. So right now, I mean, the Kennedy assassination, it was a guy, it was Cuba, it was a government, it was Magic Bullet. So that's the world we live in. So this thing has got every football fan. Wait a minute. Brady is actually no better than Andy Dalton. Brady's basically Dave Craig. He's David Carr. This ball deflation thing explains everything. Want to go look for a Sasquatch? It's just my emails this morning. My inbox is just off the rails. Like suddenly Brady, the whole explanation for his career is this. You do realize he plays 8 road games a year, okay? Lance Armstrong, that's a different story. That guy's a creep. I bet you Brady didn't even know. Come on, he's a great American patriot. Sean Hannity, Tom Brady. Country's run by those guys. Well, whatever.
Want more of the Herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
You know, I'm trying to think, if I was the commissioner, Roger Goodell, what would I do? And I think I would suspend Belichick for half the season. And I really do. I don't think ball deflation is that big of a deal. I really don't. But I think I'm a big believer in what's your resume. And if I have 2 kids and one kid tries to play by the rules and the other doesn't and kind of thumbs his nose at me, after a while, I look at your resume. I look at your resume in life. I mean, if John Calipari gets into trouble at Kentucky, this will be like the 3rd time he's had a resume issue. Mike Krzyzewski, it would be the 1st time. So, and that's nothing against Calipari, but resumes matter in life. They matter to judges. They matter to high school principals. If I was the commissioner with Belichick, it's not the action. It's the repeated insubordination and mocking of the process. I mean, Bill just mocks the media process. Mike Reiss covers this team. He's a tremendous reporter, and he's been covering the Patriots for years. So Mike Goodell received a lot of support from Robert Kraft, the Patriots owner, during this Ray Rice saga. So he's been a large defender of Roger Goodell. So now New England has this deflate gate. It's a weird situation, is it not?
Well, Colin, I think that's certainly true, and Roger Goodell was actually at the AFC Championship game. To me, though, I would think that this is going to rise above that, and I don't think there's going to be any favors done here in this investigation, if you will.
I think it's going to be based on Bill's resume and some insubordination, even the way he mocks the media process. I think they'll come down hard, really, really hard. Do you?
Well, so Colin, here's the thing, and I feel like we need more information because I've been sort of playing out various scenarios in my mind here since Chris Mortensen's story came out that 11 of the 12 footballs came in underinflated. I mean, is it possible that the Patriots just gave those footballs to the referees before the game and they were checked off and deemed okay to use? To me, if that's the case, and again, it's just a scenario, they will still get penalized, but I think the penalty would be much less than if it was found, Colin, that they gave the footballs to the referees, they were approved, and then the officials felt like they were doctored after the fact. To me, that's the key here.
Mike Reiss covers the Patriots for ESPN. How would you hurt a Belichick team? I mean, draft picks for great organizations are, bottom of the first round, bottom of the second round. Do you suspend Bill Belichick? What would ultimately hurt the Patriots, a team you're around, every day?
What would hurt them would certainly be taking Bill Belichick out of the equation. To me, Colin, just based on the information we have right now, and this is evolving, the way it always happens. We judge based on pieces of information, maybe not the complete picture. To me, that seems very extreme for what we're talking about right now. Could we get to that point? Sure, it's possible, as I've played out various scenarios in my head. But at this point, reading the game operations manual from the NFL, it says that, penalties can range from a $25,000 fine, which I think you'd probably agree would be a slap on the wrist, to things much greater, like taking a draft pick away. A high draft pick, to me, would hurt the Patriots as well.
Is this deflated football something that's, quote, known about Tom Brady?
I don't. Well, he's talked in the past. He said a few years back on a local radio station here in Boston that he does like underinflated footballs, and it was sort of said tongue-in-cheek in reference to when Rob Gronkowski spikes the ball after a touchdown. He sort of joked, it takes some air out of the ball, and he liked that. So that's one thing to keep in mind on this. And, I've talked to some people that have been around Tom, and I think he's very particular, Colin, about his football. He likes it a certain way, but I'm not sure that makes him different than any other quarterback in the NFL.
Mike, you're around this team all the time. Does it feel sneaky? Does it feel covert when you're roaming the halls?
It doesn't, Tom. It just seems like a divide. It's like, hey, this is our world, this is your world, and let's keep that wall up. I wouldn't say that it's covert as much as we want to make it clear that you're an outsider. This is what happens on the inside, and it's very hard to get a feel for what's going on in there. Whereas other teams, I think you talk to some people that cover other teams, it's a little more of an open setup. So I think that's probably the better way I would explain it, just from my experience. Nothing sneaky like, oh, you can't come in here because we might be doing something that's against the rules, as much as we just feel like this is our house and you're not necessarily welcome in our house.
Fun job for Mike Reiss. Good talking to you, buddy.
All right, Colin. Thanks for having me.
Add big flavor to your next get-together, Subway Catering. I get these emails all the time. Maybe I'm just a bad parent, but what do you tell your kids about this? I don't. What do you tell your kids about your sex life? Oh, you don't? Neither do I. Sometimes I tell my kids, it's none of your business. You like produce? I like them apples. Why do I have to tell my kids everything? This whole thing about, Colin, what message does that send to your kids? Keep your nose out of my business, you're a kid? I don't have to tell my kids everything. By the way, spare me this, you're always honest with your kids. How's that tooth fairy thing working out? Santa. Yeah, right. So, I mean, it's stop with the whole, my kids, your kids. I don't care about your kids. Don't worry about mine. And I don't tell them all the stuff that happens in my life anyway. Do you break down the tax code? When you write off a dinner that really wasn't a business dinner, do you go home, Tiffany, what, Mommy? I want to talk about the tax code. I don't tell my kids a lot. I really don't. I don't tell my kids about my life a lot. They don't ask because they're playing video games, but I don't tell them. So I don't think this means, Colin, by you supporting Belichick, you're telling your kids, I'm telling my kids to go to bed at 9 o'clock, do your homework. That's what I tell my kids. I don't talk about that other stuff. You don't either. And stop worrying about the kids. They'll be fine. You don't control them as much as you think you do. You want to know? After about 12 years old, you're not parenting. You're just counseling. Ridiculous. I get those emails all the time. What about the children? You know what? In some countries, throwing a backhoe in the backyard at 9 years old. Our kids are fine. They live in nice houses and suburbs and parks. They go swimming a lot. Our kids. Harry, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Colin, bar none, you are my favorite broadcaster and elevator. You have the utmost integrity. In that, I was hoping that you would not talk about this story today because it's the biggest non-story I've ever heard. Are we serious? Air inflation in a football? I mean, come on, man. How can this be a story?
You know,
I mean, it's the hot topic. It's the topic of the day, and you feel that you have to talk about it because you got to sell ad space. Colin, it's not a story. You're the best. You don't need to be talking about this.
This is one of these stories that it's literally on the Drudge Report. All my calls, look at my phones right now. Every phone line is jammed. If I talk about the Atlanta Hawks, I'm out of business. This is a ridiculous story. I don't choose what you like. I don't. If it was up to me, I'd talk about 3 sports. Seriously. If it was up to me, I'd just do NFL, major college football, NBA playoffs, World Cup every 4 years. You could have everything else.
High school recruiting.
Yeah, I like that. I'm kind of a dork. So, I mean, this story it's unbelievable how many calls I have. You should see my email, my Twitter account. It's going crazy. You know what I want to do during the show? Here's what I want to do during the show. Can we work on this? Let's get 2 footballs. Let's give me a 13.5-pound inflated and give me an 11.5-pound inflated. That is my order on the show today. Can we get anybody in this building to help me out? Give me 2 footballs. We're going to do it on the air live. I want to find out. Like I have normal-sized hands, okay? I'm going to grab both, and I'm going to say, and then I'll play catch with Stanzik, who's you're my Gronk. And we'll play catch, and we'll see if it matters. So we have 5,000 footballs somewhere in this company. Do we have an air pump anywhere?
No one ever had an air pump growing up, man. Those are the hard things to find.
Air pumps? We got a budget. What time is it right now? It's 10:41 Eastern. It's 7:41 Pacific. I'm on the air for 2.5 more hours. In 2.5 hours, can somebody at this company buy me an air pump? I'm tired of this story. I just want to get it figured out.
You're in the herd. The Thundering Herd Podcast.
You know, it is funny, and a lot of people are saying, Colin, you're a bad father. You need to send a message that cheating is always bad. And the message I always send to my kids when they play sports is go out there and be the most aggressive kid, because in youth sports, there's very little skill. The aggressive, strong kid usually wins, the tall kid, the strong kid. So I always tell my kids, shoot the ball, be aggressive, take it right to the rack. And that's my message. My message isn't, don't play by the rules. My message is go out there and be super aggressive. In youth sports, go and then hopefully I've been a good dad. My kid doesn't get into espionage and embezzlement. I mean, my kids know the difference between right and wrong, like your kids do. But I said this, Stanzik, to you this morning. One of the things I never wanted to be, and I listen to a lot of radio. You know, you're in the car like everybody else. I'm not a moralist. I'm not going to be one of these Mark Levin, like there's a way to do it and there's a way not, and this side's right and that side's wrong. And these are very talented people. But it's just kind of the real dishonesty about all that is the yelling and screaming creates conflict, which creates ratings, which creates revenue. Rush Limbaugh's not nearly as conservative as he lets on. He's not. I'm not saying he's not conservative, but it's part of a game and gamesmanship. And the guys on Fox, Bill O'Reilly has told people he could be liberal. He said, this side works better for my business. Bill O'Reilly's not socially conservative. The reality is there's gamesmanship in politics in our country, the way lobbyists work. I've always kind of been a believer in pot. Let people choose, in life. I have always been people call it socially liberal. I think it's socially liberating. Whether it's gay marriage, it's pot, it's alcohol, gambling. You've listened to me for 10 years if you're a fan of this show. This stuff doesn't matter. It's just the government wanting tax money on it, and they don't like gambling because they can't get their hands on the income. Like it's going to change society if a guy in L.A. wants to bet the Clippers and the Sixers tomorrow night. Doesn't mean anything. It's not tearing apart the fabric of America. The government just can't get their piece of it. Gambling, alcohol, pot, all this stuff. Amsterdam's doing just fine. You can go into their red light district. You can smoke anything you want for breakfast. Amsterdam's fine. The world's not eroding around them or inside Amsterdam. So this all comes back to sports. There's stuff going on in sports, professional sports. It's not youth sports. It's not college sports. It's professional sports. And they're pushing and they're pushing. Pete Carroll, last 6 years, has had NCAA violations, Adderall stuff, practice violations, most penalized team. Green Bay's sitting home now because they went with field goals. Detroit's sitting home because they wouldn't go for it in a 4th and 1. It's a man's business, and it's hyper-aggressive, and everybody's pushing it, and I'm not losing a lot of sleep over it. And I'm not a moralist to begin with. I look at this stuff, I'm getting a lot of old people with old people names, like Stan and Hal. Dude, this is the world we live in, is technology. If you're not ripping off, somebody's ripping you off. Look at comedy. David Letterman was doing Steve Allen's act. There's nothing original. You're copying everything in TV and radio. So I just don't lose any sleep over it. It still comes down to, I have the talent to fill space for 3 hours a day for a company. Still comes down to Tom Brady. Do you still have the talent to make the throws? Ball deflation, I'm not losing a lot of sleep over it. I do acknowledge that Belichick should be heavily punished. Absolutely. I think he's thumbing his nose at the shield, and I don't think that's good for business. I'm pro-business. I'm a social left-leaner, but I am pro-business. It's not good for business. It's not. What he's doing is not good for the NFL. It looks lousy. Brad, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're so great, Colin. But anyway, all I got to say is if they're going to get Belichick out for next year, Tom Brady should be in there, dude.
Oh.
I mean, he knows. If he was playing with a legitimate ball for the whole season and then come to the AFC Championship game, it's 2 pounds underinflated, he would know that. And if it's coming down from Belichick, Brady knows, too. He's protected by the All-American boy. And I am steamed.
Boy, look at Stanzik's nodding his head back there. Stanzik, you're just a Jet fan who's jealous of Brady.
I like the Giants, but not important. I think that caller brings up a great point. Belichick wouldn't have deflated these balls if Tom Brady didn't want them deflated. You cannot argue that. You just love Tom Brady so much, you got your blinders on.
No, we know. First of all, I've said, clearly, Tom does feel it's an advantage, or they wouldn't do it. I'm not denying that. It's absolutely an advantage. All quarterbacks like the ball a certain way. Tom clearly, in fact, there's a story on the internet a couple years ago. Tom acknowledged, I do like an underinflated ball. There's no question about this. I'm not denying. I just don't. I mean, we got managers today saying, everybody does this. Brad Johnson on a story today said, I did it before the Super Bowl. Like everybody does. It's just not that big. It's like the phantom tag in baseball. Everybody's doing it, some more than others. Some steal signs in baseball more than others. Everybody's trying to steal the third base signs. Everybody's trying to do it. Some are really good at it, and some aren't. But, I mean, I think what happens in society, we're trying to create even, and it doesn't exist. Even among billionaires, there's guys that got lucky, there's family money, and then there's guys that, like, were technology Svengalis. Like, even among billionaires, some daddy gave it to you. You're a trust fund kid. And other ones had to work for every penny, grew up in poverty. So there is no even in these leagues. Some organizations, St. Louis Cardinals, are always better run.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
I'm going to bring on a guest in about 15, 20 minutes, Brock Huard, who broadcasts in Seattle. He is a former NFL quarterback, terrific broadcaster on what is happening right now with Russell Wilson in that city. It's pretty remarkable stuff. And Brock's a great storyteller. I'm getting a lot of this morning. I find stories like this very funny. If you've not heard the story, you're just tuning in. There's a big story, big controversy today. Chris Mortensen broke it. 11 of the 12 footballs the Patriots used against the Colts were underinflated. And the league says your football has to be within 13.5 and 12.5 pounds of air pressure per square inch. And they were like 11.5. Well, what does that mean? Some quarterbacks like a little less air in a ball. It makes it easier to throw and perhaps easier to catch. Now, I still think it comes down to, you have time, are you good enough, are you, it's like having a corked bat. It helps if you can hit. What would a corked bat do for my accountant? I mean, there are certain things in cheating, there are certain levels. PED use really did take a AAA baseball player and could make him a Major League Baseball player. It would take a good player, make him very good. It took Barry Bonds to an on-base percentage of 700. That is really changing the landscape of a sport in the games. Deflating footballs, I don't think if you gave Tom Brady a 12.5 football, which is legal, in 11.5, it's the difference in routing Indianapolis. But a lot of you think I'm a Patriot guy. I'm a big homer. One, I do think Tom was aware of it, and he wouldn't do it if it didn't help. People don't take Viagra and pay for it and go to the pharmacy and pick it up if it doesn't help. What's the point? You do look for edges in life, and you do it only if it helps. Number two is, if I was the league, I'd come down hard on Belichick. And I'm a Belichick fan, but you got to come down hard on Belichick. It is a systematic sort of manipulation and insubordination of the rules. I could easily see the league coming in and saying, you're out first 8 games of next year. Out. Done. Camp, preseason, 8 games. That hurts. And I think it sends a message. I don't think Robert Kraft is happy today. I think Robert Kraft is embarrassed. I really do. I think this morning Robert Kraft is ticked off. Because it's making Robert Kraft look, and you remember the stories about his wife who passed away, very ethical, about the community. They're very philanthropic. It makes them look like they're deceptive. Which, by the way, most billionaires are. Most billionaires go to their accountants and go, find holes. I mean, they're pushers. They're envelope pushers. Let's not kid ourselves. Hedge fund guys, top accounting firms, they're envelope pushers. But they just don't want it to get out. And when it gets out, it doesn't look good. So, A, I think Tom knew. B, I think there should be heavy punishment to Belichick. C, where's ball deflation really rank? Not way up there. It's not. You know what you should do? You want to know what's funny? You know what would be the best punishment for the Patriots? Put them on Hard Knocks for 2 years. Oh, my God. That'd just be incredible. Hey, Bill, Hard Knocks, 2 years, cameras everywhere. It'd drive him crazy. That's what the league should do. Seriously, we're going to take your first-round pick. We're going to put you on Hard Knocks for 2 years. You think I'm joking. That would infuriate Bill Belichick. That's what they should do. But let me play a Chris Mortensen bite. He broke the story. First of all, he agrees with me. The league this morning, this is like having one of your prize pupils lie to you.
One of the sources I spoke with described the league as being variations of emotions from disappointed, angry, distraught.
Okay. They're distraught. Like, they're mad. In the front office of the NFL this morning's ticked off. Secondly, let's go to the third bite. Is that what are the penalties? I still think we've got some. I think we have some investigation left in this.
This is what I would call probably the early findings. But in this case, there can be sanctions, there can be fines. Some people suggest you can take away draft picks. But that's jumping a little bit of ahead because we still don't know if they've discovered who altered the footballs, if they were altered, and by the way, I might add, if they were properly inspected before the game. So there's still some things I think we need to find out before we jump to the final conclusions on it.
Now, let me ask you, we're looking for 2 footballs. We're going to inflate one to the NFL level, 13.5, and one to the 11.5 level. And I have, like, normal-sized hands. I'm 6'2", $188, regular-sized guy mostly, a little thinner than the average guy maybe. But I'm not that much thinner. Stands like there's no reason.
Dude, Americans eat. Come on.
I eat too.
Average man's got to be over 200 pounds.
Well, whatever. So, okay, here, let me take this call. This is a fun day for me, by the way. I like when it's one topic and we just find a million branches off it. I think it's kind of funny. Vincent, all right, what is your suggestion here, Vincent?
My suggestion is that I was wondering, first off, if you thought this rose to the level of Sean Payton's penalty?
No, and here's why. Vincent, the reason I predicted Bountygate would be a severe penalty, because when the NFL looked at Bountygate, Vince, when they looked at it, they were concerned that in a court of law years later, that attorneys, prosecutors could go and say, look at this league, they pay bounties to get guys hurt. So the Bountygate to the NFL and their attorneys was potentially a $1 billion boondoggle. So they wanted to come out and say, hey, we're against bounties. This is something that's not going to end up being a lawsuit 10 years from now. So Bountygate, that scared the living you-know-what out of the NFL. I don't think this scares the NFL. They're just ticked off at Belichick for being a jerk. So it's a very legitimate question, but I predicted Bountygate. I predicted the sanctions would be outrageous, and they were. I said, you watch. This is going to be like the tobacco industry. You didn't want to end up with 7 NFL attorneys. We didn't know anything about this stuff. That still haunts the tobacco industry today. This is not Bountygate. Follow the money in life. If people say it's not about sex, it's about sex. If they say it's not about money, it's about money. Follow the money in life. Bountygate was potentially a nightmare scenario. When a company gets as big as, ESPN, Nike, the NFL, only 2 things can bring them down. One of them's lawsuits. Okay? One of them's lawsuits. So once you get to be as big as Mark Cuban, Home Depot, Pepsi, you've got hundreds of attorneys protecting your assets. Okay? That's the way the game's played. So the NFL, Bountygate, we may have to write a $7 billion check. This isn't about writing a check. This just doesn't look good. It's not good PR for the league. It's not good PR for the league, but it's not a $1 zillion paycheck potentially in court. Richard, you're in the herd. Go ahead.
Hey, morning, Colin. I just want to say that the reason we even have rules in any sport is because somebody bent not the integrity of the game, the purpose we play the game.
Yeah.
Somebody got an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
They went back and said, you shouldn't push. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do that. And there we have a rule the next week. And all this is just pushing the envelope, and now we're going to have refs on the side to measure the balls every down before they go in.
Yeah. I mean, essentially, I don't know, Richard, what you do, but I was talking to my accountant about this, and he's like, this is why you have compliance. You have compliance, and the more severe the penalty, the more compliance you get. I think, like you say, our society is built on this. Push, 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 push. It goes public, then you create a law. And I think whether it's sports or business or Wall Street or insurance companies, this is the way our society works. Push, 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 push. Then it goes public. The media finds out. People are outraged. Then you create new legislation. So now I think that caller brings up a great point. From now on, you have a guy on the sideline. Ball pressure, checking. It'll be part of it. And we should often kind of, the people that are doing all the pushing, finance, football, they're often the geniuses. They're often the greatest artists. Who's pushing in this country? It's not the poor and oppressed. It's not the downtrodden. It's often the wealthy, the manipulative, the smart, the aggressive, the talented. They're pushing because they're bored or they believe there's a new frontier. I mean, we should, in a way, thank Belichick for his constant pushing of push, push, push. By the way, college football players may get paid eventually. Why? People have pushed, 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 pushed. That's a good push. This would be seen as a bad push. But that's what our society is based on. Often the very talented, the groundbreaking, pushing rules, pushing laws. You know, the great accountants in this company, in this nation, the greatest accounting firms, they're the ones that drive the IRS crazy, but they're the ones that create new tax codes. So the smartest people are always looking for an edge. They're not playing by the rules. The masses are playing by the rules.
Want more of the herd? The Thundering Herd Podcast.
By the way, I'm just watching some NFL guys on Twitter. Peter King of the MondayMorningQuarterback.com just went on Twitter and said, it's likely but not certain discipline will be deferred till after the Super Bowl. Because some have said, what about suspending Belichick now? Peter King says, number one, not certain but likely any disciplines after the Super Bowl. Number two, Peter King said, There's going to be some information about what the NFL knows coming out later today or tomorrow morning. That's good. That's good. Number 3 is, Peter King says, very important element here felt by the NFL. 31 other teams are watching intently. That is a no-brainer. I am not one of these, I think a lot of you think I'm some, cheater and Belichick. No. I would suspend Belichick for 8 games. I would not be opposed to taking Belichick out of the Super Bowl. I'm not opposed to that. That would absolutely change the line. I'm not opposed to that. I don't think deflating footballs decides games, but I think a pattern of insubordination is clear. And even the way Belichick mocks the media, it's not that it's denigrating to the media, but it is kind of thumbing your nose at the process. Bill Parcells didn't love the media. He talked to him. Marty Schottenheimer didn't love the media. He talked to him. Belichick mocks the process. And I think there's a certain comeuppance that and I'm a Belichick fan, but I'm not opposed to suspending him for the Super Bowl. I'm not. I would get my belief on this. It didn't really matter in the game much. Come on. Yeah. I mean, New England's loaded this year. They home and away, they blew everybody out. They're one play in Green Bay from being on a 13-game winning streak with 9 blowouts home and away. But it is a mocking of the process. I mean, if you're the principal, it's one thing if students make mistakes. It's another if they are systematically in your face mocking you. Brock Huard was a great high school, college quarterback, went to the NFL and played for 6 or 7 years, among them the Colts. Joining us in the Herd on ESPN Radio. Let's start with Deflategate. Okay, you were in this league. Every quarterback likes either inflation or deflation, Brock, of the football. Did you like it over-pumped or under-pumped?
Of all the questions in the direction of where we could go here, right? And you got to be very careful with how you ask and answer that question. I have pretty big hands.
Yeah.
I think Tom has pretty big hands.
Yeah.
That's why this is somewhat surprising to me, because typically I think when this happens, much like pitchers and maybe off-speed guys, they probably like a little junk on a baseball.
Yeah.
Like a little dirt, like a little pine tar, like to do what they've got to do. Usually bigger, stronger pocket guys, it shouldn't matter, and it doesn't matter. So the fact that they're underinflating, that's solely to get a better grip.
Right.
Yeah, for thrower and receiver. I didn't mind. I kind of like new footballs, to be honest with you. I kind of like.
Slippery.
Yeah. I like new as far as just firm. This is a really weird conversation. I liked bigger laces. I like those things, but yeah, that was to be quite honest, Colin, when all of this has come down, kind of shocking because, as I said, Tom has played in inclement weather for how long?
And has been a great road home, great poor weather thrower.
Big hands, strong arm. This is just perplexing to say the least.
Let's talk about the game in Seattle because you were there. And I know you to be not overly emotional. You're pragmatic. You were as a player, you are as a person, and I've known you for 8-10 years. For you, it was emotional. You were in that game. You took your wife, actually. You're up in the ESPN radio booth in Seattle. What was it like in that stadium?
It was beyond electric. It really was. And while I am a hometown guy, I don't think I'm particularly a homer.
Yeah.
Right? And that's just not the card that we play on our radio show. My co-host Mike Salk and I are pretty analytical, pretty pragmatic. But I looked over at one point to Salk, and he's crying. I mean, he's got tears in his eyes after the 2-point conversion. And I will contend, and I would bet every dollar I have, Colin, and you know the Pacific Northwest, that there were more tears shed Sunday in the community for a sport than ever before. Edgar's double, Griffey rounding third.
Right.
Everything that built into that with the lowly Mariners for decades, that was a celebration. There were tears. That was probably number 2. Last year, the tip, Richard Sherman going to the Super Bowl. It was gigantic. It was emotional. He is screaming at Aaron Andrews post-game. Then you get to the Super Bowl, and it's just a joyride. It was a freight train. This was, how is this even happening? Not our team. Not this quarterback. Not now. Not after everything this team had been through, and to come back and to sit there at 19-7 and then to have that story flip. People just flipped out.
You know, it's really interesting. You're a guy with great conviction, and so is Russell Wilson, and you don't share it often. I've known that for years about you. Russell is such a unique American athlete. He's so humble. Every quarterback's popular in their community. Although Brady is big in New England. He feels almost international.
Yeah.
But Seattle's been a losing community forever. It's dark and it rains a lot. It can be depressing. How big is Russell Wilson in that community? How is he viewed? And then you add his sort of spiritual background.
I think it's a 1-2 punch, and I think it's a home run of a 1-2 punch. Every baseball team, the Mariners have looked for a 3-4 hitter for how long? They have it, and Russell Wilson is the 3, and Pete Carroll is the 4. Pete Carroll is so perfect for this community. You got to know Pete in L.A. You watched him change the landscape of a neighborhood, of a community.
He's an evolver. Push, evolve, compete.
And those two are just so perfect in that way. I mean, Pete's worldview, very different than Russell Wilson's worldview. Yet the positivity, yet the charm, the charisma, the sense of community that they create, the inclusion, it is off the charts. So, yes, Russell Wilson is unlike anything that Seattle has ever had from a star factor, from a franchise factor. But Pete alongside of him, the 1-2 punch, it makes it the best time in Seattle sports history, bar none.
It's almost Richard Sherman was on my show yesterday, and he said, we're almost a college team because it's a young team.
It is. It is. And you get that feel, their work ethic, their commitment, and frankly, their locker room earlier this year, it was well documented. It was when you have young people with new money, with ego, right?
There was problems week 3, 4, 5, right?
Bring in 5-star recruits, right? And they have very good freshman years. And then how's that sophomore year, right?
Right.
That's a little bit of what they had to do. And a little bit of that, hey, you guys are all talented and you're all wonderful. Talk to Nick Saban about cutting out entitlement. That's a little bit of what this year was.
Yeah.
Hey, guys, we got to leave the Super Bowl entitlement, the Super Bowl ego. We got to leave that at the door. Get back to what made us so good a season ago, and they did.
Brock Huard is a broadcaster in Seattle, former Husky quarterback, NFL quarterback, and now a huge part of that community in Seattle. When you look at the game, I've been saying this all year. I really liked New England early. I just felt in the AFC they were kind of the class of it. Seattle, they don't have a pass rush like last year. They're down to about a third-string defensive tackle. You can run on them. I love their secondary, but they lost Golden Tate and Percy Harvin. They're not quite as electric offensively. I don't feel they're as good as last year. Do you?
Yet, what have they done over the last 12 weeks, right?
Crush people.
Crush people. What did they do down the stretch in a 6-game schedule that was supposed to be the toughest gauntlet, the toughest schedule, and easy now in hindsight to say, oh, it was Sanchez, oh, it was Kaepernick. I don't care. Those 6 teams going into that stretch were 20-some games over 500, and they wiped them out, double digits. And then they beat up on the Panthers, and then they do something improbable that's never been done, and I can't believe they pulled that out. So they have a sense of belief that I think is greater than last year. Last year was about talent. Last year, those guys were talking after the season. Michael Bennett at the end said, this was a once-in-a-generation defensive line. To have what they had with the amount of depth and who they could rotate and the talent on that group was a once-in-a-generation group. They're not where they were there last year. Linebackers better, Legion of Boom's better, quarterback is much better, running back is an absolute monster, offensive line run game has improved, probably better. So there's some give and take there, but I think the single biggest factor this season is just the sense of belief. The sense of belief in that team, sense of belief that the coach has, and then really, Colin, if you get out there and you've been out there, if you were doing your show out there for the last month, you would feel a sense of belief and confidence that is so anti-passive-aggressive Seattle, humble, I don't want to be out front. It is a stick your chest out, we belong, we're the best. Yeah, it's an amazing time right now in Seattle sports.
Great seeing you, man.
You too.
Brock Huard. All right, here's the very latest. The Boston Globe confirms that game officials discovered at halftime that game balls were underinflated. They tested each ball twice, different gauges. So here's my question. Weren't the Patriots better in the second half? So this underinflated thing now, it was just down to 1/2. Yeah, I got an email from Lee in Pebble Beach, California. And first of all, Lee, the fact that you live in Pebble Beach, I'm in awe of you. He said, Colin, which rules don't matter? How often do rules get broken on purpose? I love your show. I'm surprised at your rationalization to the point of saying we should thank Belichick. First of all, I said suspended for the Super Bowl. But I said in society, a lot of the rule breakers, the engineers, Apple, Microsoft, that are taking us to new frontiers, they're some of the smartest people. It was 17-7 at half. The ref said, hey, those balls are squirrely. Then they outscored them 28-0 in the second half. So it was a half of a game issue, and then it was discovered. according to the latest Boston Globe tweet. All right, 1-888-SAY-ESPN. We're going to get a football, 2 of them. We're going to inflate one heavy and inflate one light and see if it makes a difference. Stanzik will be my Gronk. My Brandon LaFell. It's the Herd.
You're in the Herd. The Thundering Herd podcast.
All right, so this is exactly like playing at Foxborough in the NFL playoffs. This is going to be very scientifically accurate. We have turned the air conditioning down in this room to about 38 degrees, 40 degrees to make it colder. We're going to put some crowd noise in. Come on over, Stanzik. This is going to be incredibly bad radio. So what we're going to do, we got 2 footballs, and we have one at 13.5 and one at 11.5, which is what they're claiming New England knew the footballs were at. For the record, it should be noted that Tom Brady was asked about this the other day and laughed about it on WEEI radio in Boston. So where are the footballs at? Okay. Do we have some crowd noise here so we can make it sound like him at Foxborough? Right now it's very, very cold in the room. Very cold. We've turned it down. You can feel it, right? It's cold. So this is Dan Stanzik. You're kind of Julian Edelman-ish. No, because he's nimble. You're not nimble. You're Gronk. Now we put a helmet on him. So I'm going to, first of all, I'm going to make a couple of really bad throws. These are going to be hard throws for you to catch with the underinflated football. All right, now I want you to move a little like you're in a game. Oh. Okay, that was an easy one.
Touchdown.
Yeah, okay, here we go. Oh. Okay, nice
Touchdown.
Job. Okay, here we go. Underinflated. Oh, nice catch, Stanzik. Underinflated football. It almost feels like you really have. You can grip it. All right, let's go to the overinflated football. The elite. This is the illegal one we just used, and you went 3 for 3. Okay, here we go. This is really, really, really bad radio. Now this puppy is thick. It's tight. It's a rock. All right, here we go. Run a little route. All right, you caught it.
Touchdown.
Okay, it is. All right, here we go. Run around. Oh, ball came off his hands. Stanzik. That hard ball is hard to catch, right? All right, here we go. One more. So the hard ball you couldn't hang on to. Here we go. You dropped another one. Look at Stanzik. So, okay, come over here to the mic, poor man's Julian Edelman. Come over here to the mic with your helmet on. Let's get this on ESPNU. What was the difference? Because it did feel like the smaller ball was easier for me to throw. The less inflated ball was easier for me to throw. What was it like to catch?
This lesser inflated one was much easier to catch because I could feel my fingers kind of grasping it a little more.
Yeah.
The other one was like a rock. I think I'm sweating.
All right. Let's have some applause for this amazing radio moment in the Herd on ESPN Radio. This was, here you go, softy right there. Okay. So there you go. So it clearly, the underinflated football, throwing it and catching it. Can we submit that segment for some sort of Marconi Award? Is it possible if we can? That was really terrible.
Science rules.
I don't know. It's going to be. I listen.
Great story, compelling and rich.
Colin Cowherd.
The Thundering Herd podcast.
The big story today is Deflategate. I mean, it's everywhere. It's everywhere today. 1-888-SAY-ESPN, the phone number. That's what everybody's talking about. NFL found that 11 of the 12 footballs used by the Patriots, and every team brings a dozen footballs in. They get earmarked by the league. The league looks at them before the game. Check. Inflate that one more. Check. And they're saying basically the Patriots could have snuck in some footballs that were underinflated. Tom Brady laughed about it. Belichick said he'd have no problem. Whatever the league wants to do is fine. But, there's a sense with Bill Belichick that he is an envelope pusher and a cheater, and that's sort of his reputation. Having been in this business for 25 years, one of the things I can say without question, I've never met a guy, you really are your reputation. I've never met a single guy in sports with a great reputation who is a bad guy. It doesn't work that way. Maybe you can fool people for a year or an event, but the guys who have great reputations that I've met, they're great guys. The guys with sketchy reputations are sketchy guys. So you really are your actions byproduct of your resume. Belichick has a reputation, and I would say it's not about cheating. It's about kind of, I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to push. There was a story somebody forwarded me this morning about Belichick involved in a relationship with a woman in New York City. It was all over the New York Post, and people are saying I think Belichick's history is, I'm going to push, I'm going to do things my way, I'm going to find every advantage I can. I think there's a certain sense Belichick thinks he's smarter than most people. He probably is. And he is not going to do it the way you want him to do it. Now, I think football has a history. I mean, let's take baseball, for example. When Moneyball came out, remember the book Moneyball? When that came out, all the baseball purists mocked it. Yeah, but everybody now uses, at least to some degree, sabermetrics. So Moneyball was a different way of looking at the world, right? There's a different way of looking at the world. And a lot of the old baseball guys, the old baseball guys either got fired or administered some of those sabermetric applications, right? So, same in football. This is the way we do it. Belichick's like, no, we're going to start using tight ends. This is the way we're going to start running the football. Passing is running. I mean, if you look at Belichick's history, we're going to start going for it on fourth down. He's always been a guy that's looking for new advantages. He threw to the tight end before people threw to the tight end. Tight end used to be a throwaway position. I mean, seriously. It was like a tight end. A tight end was an offensive tackle with slightly better hands. He made it a weapon. Andy Reid and Belichick 10 years ago stopped running the football. On third down, third and short, Belichick's like, that's not a running play, it's a passing play. Against Baltimore, they didn't have a single running play in the second half, not one. Brady ran for about 3 yards. They didn't have a running back touch the ball the entire half. Belichick was also the guy that said, we're going to go for it on fourth down all the time. So there's a book called The Wisdom of Crowds. They have a chapter on Belichick. He has always been push, 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 push. He's the first guy in this league to go no huddle. He went to Oregon, watched Chip Kelly, and he went full-time no huddle. So Belichick has done this his entire career. Push, 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 push. Change, 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 change. Evolve, 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 evolve. Most football coaches, let's be honest, older white males. This is what you're not going to tell me how to rule football. This is the way we coach. Belichick's the opposite. So in this instance, once again, what have we noticed Belichick doing over the last several weeks? Putting in offensive linemen. You know, he doesn't get it okayed before the game, which you're kind of sort of, but it's not a rule. Instead, he goes to an official before the game and says, we'll do this. And then there's this ball deflation inflation. It's just part of his personality. And it's why everybody in this league, if asked, would take Bill Belichick as a coach. You know you would. If I said tomorrow Belichick's available, you'd fire your coach. Name a fan in this league that wouldn't fire their coach for Belichick. Even the people like in New Orleans who like Sean Payton, I'll take Belichick. Everybody take him. So, you know, and I've said this, Pete Carroll, when Pete Carroll goes to Los Angeles, he's a legend. He's an all-timer. He's Mount Rushmore in Los Angeles. When they introduce him or his image is shown at the Coliseum, people go crazy. People go crazy. Yet when he left USC, they were in massive sanctions. Well, that's the NCAA's fault. Really? Hiring that special teams coach was the NCAA's fault? So we in sports, San Francisco Giant fans to the end defended Barry Bonds. We don't like cheaters unless there are cheaters. In Boston today, they're all for Belichick. Part of the game. In California, Pete Carroll's ours. In San Francisco, Barry Bonds, they were not illegal in society. Baseball didn't have a rule that said you couldn't do it. I mean, they used them in hospital for cancer patients, PEDs, creams. So let's not get, let's be honest and have some self-awareness. You all like your cheaters, as long as they're yours. If your accountant is fudging on your taxes, you're okay with it. Don't like it if your neighbor does it, but hey, got me another Lexus. So, by the way, do you know why there's certain federal protections from whistleblowers? Because whistleblowers get their life threatened. When whistleblowers come out and say, yeah, Enron, it's a scam, you know what happens to the whistleblower? People try to kill him, even though everybody in that company knows he's right, because they want to protect their pensions and their 401ks. We are all fans of deception, unless it's not on our terms. Steve, you're in the herd on ESPN Radio. Steve, go ahead.
Hey, Colin, I'm a lifelong Patriots fan, and, I guess I'm just getting tiresome of some of these. Every 4 or 5 years, you get the Spygate, you got the Aaron Hernandez, now you got the ball deflate. And Belichick and Brady are the best quarterback-coach tandem ever, I believe, to be in the NFL, but yet their whole legacy is going to be tainted because of these issues throughout the years, and I just hate it because I'm almost tired of defending why I like the Patriots. Are y'all a bunch of cheaters? Well, everybody cheats. Aaron Rodgers likes his balls overinflated. He admitted that on November 30th to Phil Simms. So I'm just tired of this. I just wish they would just play the game, and I know Bill Belichick, like you just said, evolve, but I just wish he would just do it within the parameters he's supposed to.
Yeah, and I get that, but I'll tell you this: if you go 3-13 for about 4 years, you'll want that Bill Belichick guy back. I mean, go look at this NFL right now. Who are the 4 or 5 teams left? Andrew Luck, Aaron Rodgers, Tony Romo, Cam Newton, Brady, Peyton Manning, Russell Wilson. It's all the best quarterbacks. So you can. If you ask USC fans today, would you take Pete Carroll back? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I think Sark's going to be a big hit there, but are you kidding me? So I think fans can be a little hypocritical. They just, I mean, good Lord, during the HGH steroids, to listen to you fans with HGH users, I mean, you were Mark McGuire, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, everybody's doing it. Fans were ridiculous. Fans were ridiculous. I mean, San Francisco is one of the most international, sophisticated American cities. It may be number one. They became clapping seals, supporting Barry Bonds. It was embarrassing because he was their guy. He was their cheater. I mean, if you read the emails from fans, I always laugh about Terrell Owens. Cowboy fans mocked him when he was an Eagle. 2 seconds later, the Cowboys sign him. Come on, the media is outrageous on. Come on, fan short for fanatic. So you can get tired of Belichick and Brady, but their history is pushing the envelope. It's the history of Steve Jobs.
Check out The Herd with Colin Cowherd weekdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNradio.com, and on ESPNU. The Thundering Herd Podcast.